I can't see her clearly enough.
Butler and I shall give her a distraction.
Artemis? Artie! And that is what the Artemis Fowl series is like pretty much all of the time. I didn't realize how excited I was going to be about this until I actually saw that it was the next book on the shelf. And the Artemis Fowl series, I think, is probably one of my favorite book series. It has certainly inspired the most amount of artwork.
Whatever kind of drink, yeah. The name is Artemis Fowl. I'm at the start of being something legend.
All of it. There's some more on my wall there. And also there. There. Okay. As for an age limit, I'm not putting one up. If you are willing to be immature, you will like these books. That's just it. You have to be slightly immature just for mulch and the often silliness of it, which is just brilliant. So basically, I've taken the Artemis Fowl series and split it up into 3 sections. This is the first section. It's not just 3 books, no, it's 8 books. It's wonderful. The first 3 books, the second 3 books, and then the last 2, which are hardcovers, so it kind of makes sense. I've split it up into 3 parts because it's just such a complex series, and I want to talk about it for 3 weeks. Artemis Fowl. Artemis Fowl, the Arctic Incident. And Artemis Fowl, the Eternity Code. Basically, Artemis and Holly's relationship going from pretty much pure hatred to friendship. I wanted him to tell her that he loved her, because I think by this time he does. And obviously he didn't, and he doesn't, ever. I'm just setting you up for this disappointment now. He never does tell her that he loves her. Why won't you love each other? So as I said, pure hatred, respect, which is important, and then friendship. And then, before we get any further, I would also like to thank Nick. I don't know, he wanted me to give you a fake name, but Nick is pretty generic, so I'm just going with that. He did the voiceover at the beginning, you remember.
Butler and I shall give her a distraction.
Oh, it's magic. Yes, alright. Plots. Plot. Evil plots. Not really evil. Yeah, good intentions. Let's see what would happen if we had some Irish kid kidnap a fairy. What would happen if you were an absolute genius? What would happen if she was a police officer? If you want the answer to those questions, Artemis Fowl. He does. He kidnaps a fairy who is a police officer, and she is held for ransom for quite a bit of money. And the way they get her back is just brilliant, because he is able to kidnap her because he steals the fairy rule book, which says they have to go to this certain location to renew their magic work. Yeah, that is important, but not that important. And he has a fairy rule book, and that is how he knows what to do. See, the thing is, people don't always follow the rules. How does one begin to describe Artemis Fowl? Your first introduction to this kid is that he does not like the sun. Which is weird. It actually does describe him as a vampire. That is sad. The first thing you really notice for yourself about him is that he is very intelligent. He has has an older person with him, like an adult with him. He's 12. He has an adult with him, and he's the boss. So... And, then he goes off and starts talking to some fairy, and you're like, well, this is a bit weird, but it's cool, and I'm, you know, interested, and you just keep reading, and then you get Holly. Holly Short is a police officer. She's the only female captain in the LEP, which is the Lower Elements Police. And she's desperate to prove herself. She's, you know, been there for at least 2 years now, and she just wants to prove herself to her boss, who actually says that he's pushing her harder because she's a woman. And she gets all, like, she freaks out at him, and he says, no, I'm pushing you harder because you're a woman, and you have to set an example because you're the first woman in the LEP, and you're great. And she goes, oh. Sorry. That's another thing about her boss. Her boss is Julius Root. I love Root. Root is... he's great. Oh, man. So then Artemis goes and kidnaps her. After a failed reconnaissance thing. LEP recon. Leprechaun. I love that. Moving on to book 2. The Arctic Incident. We introduce a new character, Opal Boy, and she's trying to get goblins to start a civil war with the fairies. Yes, goblins are fairies. It's all very weird and intact. It's like fairy is a general term for elves and gnomes and dwarves and goblins and stuff, basically. So, Artemis has the money from the last book. And what is he doing with this money again? He's trying to find his father, who was lost in the Arctic and has been lost for 2 years because he loves his father. They don't tell you that in the first book! They just don't tell you that until book 2. The goblins are there, and obviously that's a problem. And the LEP are worried about that, and they blame it on Artemis. They just do. They blame it on Artie. Poor Artie. They blame it on Artie. So, for a change, they kidnap him and bring him into their police plaza thing. Which is great, isn't it? Oh yeah. And so he's like, no, I'm not trying to help the goblins start a civil war, but I could help you stop it. And they're like, yeah, we're cool with that. What do you want? Come help me find my father. And so Holly and Root go and help Artemis find his father. And it's very touching. It's a very touching reunion. You know, getting shot in the shoulder, it's just so... Artemis and Holly become almost friends. Respect. They certainly respect each other and start to care more about one another. You can see this most in the scene where Holly gets her finger shot off, and Artemis moves heaven and earth to fix that, because he kind of blames himself. Rightfully so. So yeah, Russian mafia, goblins, psychotic pixies, father-son reunions, some blood and frostbite, big guns. Good book. Book 3! Yay! Mulch is in it. That's good. Holly's flying. Got her goggles on. That's good. Artemis is standing in a corner looking creepy. Artemis has got his father back. He's started to actually respect people, and he wants to be a good guy. This is big turning point. He doesn't want to be an evil criminal mastermind. He wants to help people. Just one last misdeed. Never do one last misdeed! It's not a good idea! He creates a sea cube, which is stolen fairy technology. And he tries to sell it, and it doesn't work. I mean, it does. I mean, the guy wants to buy it, but he doesn't want to buy it. He wants to take it, obviously. So, while trying to take that, the guy almost kills Butler. And I haven't talked much about Butler, which is just a criminal sin, isn't it? Because Butler is just such a lovable teddy bear with large guns. I love Butler. He's sweet. He's basically Artemis's bodyguard, and he has worked for Artemis's family since, like, the Dark Ages. I mean, not him specifically, but his family has always worked for the Fowls, so he will do anything to protect Artemis, including dying, which is kind of what happens in this book. But he winds up okay. Artemis, like, cryogenically freezes him and gets Holly to help. Magic always comes with a price, right? Yes. And the price this time is Artemis's memories of the fairy peoples. They're going to wipe his brain at the end of the book, if all goes according to plan and no one is, like, mortally wounded and he runs off. They're gonna wipe his brain. And of course, because Artemis is a genius, everything does go to plan. And at the end of the book, he, Butler, and Butler's sister, who was in the first book, but I didn't tell you about her, they all have their memories erased. The end! That's just how the book ends. That's not quite how the book ends. You remember Opal Kaboy, right? Well, next week I will be telling you more about why I hate her so much. But the end of the book ends with her smiling and thinking about revenge. Isn't that sweet? Because they foiled her plan to start a civil war with goblins in book 2. Yay! Next week I will tell you why I hated Opal, why I love number 1, and wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff, why I ship Artemis and Holly, and why I drew that picture. I've been filming for 21 minutes, and now I have to go do laundry. So, I will see you next week when I tell you about all that stuff. You can edit that after you spit out the laundry. And then the week after that, get it together. Yeah, done. Okay, have to now. Okay. Yay, I'll see you next week. Bye!
Yeah.
Why am I such a loser? I love this! So anyway, he kidnaps her and gets the gold and stuff. I'm moving on to the next book because it's upside down. I'm moving on